Life comes with a lot of decisions, and it can be hard to know the right path sometimes. A therapist can help you map out what you really want, so you trust yourself to make great choices and feel excited about the future. BetterHelp offers convenient professional online therapy on your schedule, however you want it, by phone, chat, or video call. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/positive today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/positive.
Have you been in an accident that wasn't your fault? Feeling overwhelmed and unsure what to do next? Look no further. The personal injury attorneys at Phillips Law Firm are here to help. Phillips Law Firm understands that accidents can turn your life upside down. That's why they're dedicated to fighting for the compensation you deserve and to making the process as stress-free as possible. Don't wait any longer. Call now, 1-800-JUSTICE, or visit justiceforyou.com.
Now, the greatest story never told with Miles and Thrill.
Hola, and welcome to the Greatest Story Never Told podcast. I believe this is episode number 14. Yeah. What a day.
I guess. I didn't remember 13. I knew we did it. I couldn't remember what we talked about.
We did it on the day that iHeart fired all those people.
I vaguely remember this. And we got an email earlier today from someone who listened to episode 13, 12, whatever the hell it was last week. And they said, that's the man, I really enjoyed the podcast, which made me happy. Because, again, I don't remember anything. But they said the best part was the fact that Thrill was drunk through the whole thing.
Yeah.
You were 100% correct. I forgot that I was. But the beauty of reading that email, I'm like, that's why I can't remember anything.
Yes.
Okay.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
So today, believe it or not, Pearl Jam has a brand new single that is coming forth that they released today on radio.com. And if you want to check the song out, it's awesome. It's great. It's available now, radio.com. Go there and listen to it.
I like it.
We were going to have Eddie Vedder, Matt Cameron, Stone Gossard, Jeff Ament, the whole band in tonight for the Greatest Story Never Told. But they had a thing.
At KEXP?
Yeah, they did. At KEXP, which is the station that they choose to represent, even though we play the music. But that's cool because they're edgy and cool. And the tune is great, by the way. But they we told them, we called them and said, hey, we have a much bigger thing to talk about. So on this podcast, you know what, guys, just turn around wherever you are.
Just go to KEXP.
Yeah, just go home.
Just do that.
Just go home. And we're going to talk about...
Because they matter.
So some weird things happened today. First of all, our coworker and good friend Ted Smith, he lost a very big member of his family, and I talked about it on TV Time with Ted. Guy that's been instrumental in his life from the moment that he was young.
A lot of people's lives. Yeah, Ted's one of them. That's true.
And Ted's touched by this, and it's got us thinking, a little bit tonight as we cut this thing. There were a couple of shootings in downtown Seattle, and right now as we walk out the building, it's kind of a chaotic situation downtown.
No offense, I'm from Baltimore, amateur.
Yeah, and this is unusual for a city like Seattle to have people who are killed. Which is strange for a major city. To be honest with you, this should be...
And let's say OD. Like that, we've gotten spades. Bro, we know how to OD.
So
murder, we're not the best at it.
Yeah, so unfortunately, okay, so we're going to talk about people who have passed. And I think the best way... Well, because...
Like, how was that a positive thing, man? I don't understand.
We told the guys in Pearl Jam to turn around.
Yes.
Like, why do you want to come here and promote your stuff? You know what I mean? Like we're going to talk about dead people. And unfortunately, with Ted's situation, it's going to be very close to home, and he is going to go back for the funeral and take a couple days off. And we thought about just like as life goes on, you get older. There's certain people that have been in your life that have passed on, and it sucks, man. It's one of those things that hits you, man.
So one or two people, I'm not going to lie, I'm like, all right. Correct. All right.
And
not relatives, but there are some people like good.
And it hit Ted today very hard. And understandably so. So we thought that we would take a little bit of time on this podcast, and sorry, Pearl Jam, we wanted to have you, but we wanted to talk about some of the people that were more important than them that came on our show and have since passed on.
Are you sure?
What do you mean, am I sure?
Are you sure? Like, you have a list of these people. I don't, honest to God, I don't honestly remember. I'm sure if
you don't remember anything.
I know. I do know that much. We have talked to some people where I'm like, When do we do
so
that? Like
I'm going to run through a list of some people that we've been fortunate enough to talk to and who are no longer here with us. And we can reminisce for a second just about some of those people.
If I can. Give me name number one. Name number one.
Then the first person that passed away that we interviewed that was someone who we kind of looked up for, looked up to as Gary Coleman.
I don't look up to Gary Coleman. Nobody looked up to Gary Coleman.
What I'm saying is he is someone who has passed on.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
that we had on a radio show. And what I'm saying is he's no longer with us, and he was a guest that we interviewed.
He was, and most people know Gary Coleman as the lovable, was it Arnold from Different Strokes, right?
Yeah.
That is his bread and butter.
Old 70s, 80s TV show.
And look, we watched it as kids when we were growing up, and I loved his character, all that stuff. I enjoyed the show, the whole thing. There was nothing wrong with it. But years had passed, and I'm not speaking ill of the dead. I'm speaking ill of the character of the person who happens to be dead. We got him on the air. He was terrible. And I don't mean like he's a bad interview. You can be a bad interview because you're awkward.
He was angry.
I'm saying as a human being, he was pretty terrible. And maybe it was justified. I don't know. I'm not trying to go to hell, but man, he was the son of a bitch.
They had little people wrestling back in the day. There's a unique temperament among little people that has a lot of anger. If that very fairly so.
Yeah, but he was the son of a bitch no matter what. His anger had nothing to do with that.
But he was doing politics in California. And he was trying to run for office. Then he decided to be a political correspondent. So we, at that point in time, I think it was the presidential race, we're like, Gary, will you be our correspondent in California for the presidential race? And he's like, hell yeah. And then he died. Okay, we move on.
No, that's true. I do remember that. He was like you said, man, he got into the political correspondence, and he was doing it seriously, but any broadcast outlet that wanted his services, he was willing to work with them, which is cool. Mm-hmm. Right. And he agreed to do it. We're like, I don't know if this is cool or not, because in the end, it's Gary Coleman doing but yeah, he died.
All right, next up on the list would be the one and only Macho Man Randy Savage, who was...
He was awesome.
Incredible. Just what a incredible human being. So much fun to be around. Macho Man is not a character. Macho Man is Randy Savage.
That's it.
And when Randy Savage walked in, he'd be like, "Hey, brothers, how are you doing? What's going on tonight?"
Here's the thing I liked about him. Before we went on mic, all right, so the only difference between Randy Savage and Macho Man, Randy Savage does not wear fringe. That's all. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the person,
it's Randy Savage.
But he walks in and he's like, "Hey, brothers, I appreciate you. Let me have you." But he goes, "Hey, anything you want to talk about's on the table." Because keep in mind, a lot of people when you interview, not a lot of people, there's a percentage of people when you interview them, it's one thing if they say, "Hey, man, can we steer clear of blank?" You're like, all right. A lot of times it's their management. If management tells us, F you.
Remember Elizabeth?
It needs to come out of their mouth. But
remember
Randy
Elizabeth
Savage,
his wife,
yes,
who passed on, like all these things, like in his house, all these things are fair game. He would
anything.
He'd been through some real crap, and he was willing to sit down and say, "Hey, man, I'll talk about any of this stuff."
But once you realize someone's that cool and that honest, you don't go down the dark holes with them.
And honestly, as far as our radio career as a show goes, I think that Macho Man was one of my favorite interviews,
easily.
Not based on the fact that we asked good questions or we did the interview right. It was just the fact that Macho Man was so cool and such a great storyteller and kind of just was one of those guys. When he walked out, we were like, wow, that was so freaking cool. It was unbelievable. We move on. Charlie Murphy. Charlie Murphy.
Don't edit it. Do not edit it. I want the word.
You don't have to edit asshole. I mean, it's not FCC. No, you don't. No, you don't. So Charlie Murphy was gaining fame by the fact that obviously he's Eddie Murphy's brother, but he's also on the Chappelle Show.
Mm-hmm.
So
because he's Eddie Murphy's brother.
And you know what? No disrespect to Dave Chappelle by any stretch of the imagination, because we've had his head writer Neil Brennan on. We've talked to most of the main people other than Dave.
Of the Dave
Chappelle Show. But the Charlie Murphy stuff that was done on the Chappelle Show at that time was unbelievable. You had the Prince thing. You had the Rick James thing. You had all these stories of Charlie Murphy going back and telling these iconic tales of dealing with Prince and eating pancakes and playing basketball.
But he was a in real life.
Yeah,
He
or
was,
or
man.
Rick James
You don't
punching-
have to edit that, do you?
punching him in the face and leaving a ring print
Yeah, it says bitch or something.
in his forehead because he punched him so hard. Charlie Murphy was maybe the worst guest we've ever had.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
One of
Charlie
the worst.
Murphy. So
No, I
don't-
want him to rest in peace.
We don't
I
really have much to say about him. I mean,
He
to
was
be
an
honest with you,
a-hole.
He was.
He really was. He
Okay.
really, really was.
I'm going to throw this out there, and I'll let Steve do the rest. There was a legendary broadcaster in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he was the voice of Pittsburgh for no less than 30 years. There was no better journalist, there was no better broadcaster than a man named Myron Cope. And
Myron Cope. He
Myron-
spoke like this, but by God, that man meant every word he said.
And he was more entertaining than anybody on the radio in that day. He worked with a guy from my hometown, Jack Fleming, for a number of years on broadcast with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Later moved on with a guy named Bill Hillgrove, who was his partner.
And
Myron
Bill
Cope,
Hillgrove, in case you don't know, has been the voice of NFL films. If he's not still, he was for most. Anytime you watch NFL films, it was a cold day in the tundra. That's Bill Hillgrove.
So, but Myron came on the program at the time. We would talk to a broadcaster from a team that was playing the Ravens. The Ravens playing the Steelers. We're talking to Myron Cope. He is very, very open about anything we want to talk about. We've got him on the line for and keep in mind, I grew up listening to Myron Cope.
This was a Miles Erection interview. You
Oh,
have to
my
understand.
God.
We all knew who he was. We all like sports. We all obviously like radio. So we know his name. But Miles grew up with this guy. So when the opportunity came up, Miles is like, man, look, if for no other reason, for me, this is one of the guys I idolize in broadcasting, and we understand that. You go absolutely.
In the Pittsburgh area, Subway restaurants, they had a Myron Cope kielbasa. And Myron Cope walked in that commercial.
It's not very big.
Yeah, and the Myron Cope.
But it's tasty.
But it's a kielbasa, and kielbasa is big in that area of the country. In western Pennsylvania, it's a big Polish area. People love kielbasas. So, and Myron Cope is Polish. So they do the Subway ad, and Myron Cope is on there. And he walks up to the Subway, and he looks up, and they have the Myron Cope kielbasa on the sandwich board. And he's like, hey, what is a Myron Cope kielbasa? And he said, well, that's a sandwich name. He's like, you named it after me? And then he just starts dancing in the Subway. And for the next 20 seconds of that commercial is Myron Cope dancing in a Subway restaurant, eating a
he
sandwich.
can't dance.
Just losing his mind. You know what I mean? And it was the greatest thing ever. So Myron Cope was great.
Yeah, but here's the thing with Myron Cope, all right? And this is the first experience we had with what we now know to be the Miles curse, all right? So Myron Cope comes on, and honest to God, it was a fascinating interview. The guy, he's been in broadcast forever.
He knows everything.
He's seen it all. So, and he's been very open with us and all this, and he kept saying, he's like, fellas, I'm having a really good time, but I do need to go soon, right? And he kept saying that. We understood that. So as we're winding up the interview, he even said, fellas, I would love to stay on here longer with you. I really, really would. There's just something I need to do today. So Miles, being a Myron Cope fan, Miles has done his due diligence on research. Yeah. This is why we kind of stopped doing research on people. Miles says, hey, Myron, listen, seriously, honest to God, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to all of us. When you leave today, make sure you tell your wife she's beautiful, we love her, and I hope you guys have time together. So Myron, there's a pause, right? And to me, I'm thinking, that's a really nice touch that Miles put in there. I didn't know he was married because my research said he wasn't. And this is why my research was more current. Myron says, fellas, the reason I have to go today is because this is the 10th anniversary of my wife's death, and I'm going to put flowers on her grave.
And I can't.
I mean, it's like, oh, my God.
And now we're going to break, and I can't say anything other than just sit there with my hands in my face
It was
and go,
the worst.
oh my God! Like you know how you know the feeling when you go through a breakup and you don't feel like eating. You know what I mean? Like you're at that point where your stomach's in knots.
Dude, it was the worst.
I felt so bad.
It's not even 6 months. It was 10
so bad.
years.
It's a 10-year. Well,
What was your research?
hey, I thought that too. I felt like maybe up to Miles. Miles
You know what?
is crushed.
I knew when I effed that up. So we're going to end this a little bit early, but
By the way, it was awkward for all of us.
We'll get into some of the more of the stories involving these people. That was a terrible moment. But we do, since we're calling this episode Dead or Death or whatever we're going to call it.
Is that what we're calling it?
I'm pretty sure.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, it's terrible.
I'll clean it up.
Yeah, but it is what it is. We want to talk about some of the people that have been here real quick, and just and we'll end with this. Before I met Steve, and we worked together, I worked on a radio station called 104.3 The Colt.
Classic rock in Baltimore.
In Baltimore. David Brenner, who was a legendary late-night fill-in host and everything, he was on the show. Incredible guy, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He has passed on. Steve Beckler, Orioles pitcher.
Yeah, yep.
He got involved in some of the stuff that we used to take all the time.
Different since he's athletic.
Yeah, he same speed that Steve and I were eating in Baltimore, like every day that we buy at a 7-Eleven or
In
Royal
fact,
Farms.
they discontinued selling this particular speed because of his death. So
we would eat ephedrine like you couldn't imagine. Like your penis wouldn't even come out of its
know.
shell. We could barely breathe. We were so jacked up on speed.
Yeah, I know.
And he died from it, so that sucks.
But we didn't.
Yeah. Okay, so as we
Don't shake your head, man. Listen, we did what we did, and it was fine.
Corey
Stringer.
Stringer from the Vikings passed away the same way. Mm-hmm. We didn't. Cockroaches live, bitch. We're the Keith Richards of your radio dial. So, R.I.P. to David Brenner, Steve Beckler from the Orioles, Charlie Murphy, who was Eddie Murphy's brother, Ty Posabon, who came in to join us, who was a PBR professional rodeo guy.
Yeah, that's actually sad, man.
27 years old. If you know anything about rodeo, you know there's a lot of trauma to the head. He had a very difficult time with that. Ty took his own life in Canada. He was one of the true good guys.
Like talking to him, this was a good guy.
CTE is real, people. Like, please understand that. Myron Cope, we just spoke of. The Macho Man, Randy Savage. The legendary Ronnie James Dio, who just got done cutting his grass when we had him on the phone.
Here's a little known fact, all right? So we knew a guy. So the guy that told us this story, this guy used to be Metallica's manager, used to be Tool's manager. This guy carries a lot of weight. He's also the best friend of our boss, all right? So we had brought up Ronnie James Dio long before Ronnie James had passed. And he goes, man, I actually had a house next to him. He's a great guy. Like, he goes out, mows his lawn and stuff, on his own. He goes, but he mows his lawn in jorts.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds stupid, but my one thing about Ronnie James Dio that I know is that he would take cut-off jeans, wear them in shorts, and cut his lawn.
And also probably the greatest vocalist in metal history.
Oh, yeah, you can't
Without
top
question.
that, man.
Yes, we can, because we're not down the list yet.
Oh, damn it.
Gary Coleman, who we already
Great
mentioned.
vocalist.
Lemmy from Motorhead, who,
Yep.
honest to God, we need a translator for because his Cockney was so thick.
But that's a dude who's about as cool. It's not the word cool doesn't do Lemmy justice, like real. I mean, I can't explain it. Like, my man is who he is. You can like it, you can not like it. He doesn't care one way or another.
David Modell, who was at the time the vice president of operations for the Ravens, who used to come on our show every week to talk about whatever he wanted to. He was an
Pretty sure he was coked up all
He was
the
an
time,
esoteric guy. He had a good time with life, but unfortunately, after we left there, he faced some medical problems that he could not overcome. What you need to know about David Modell was he ended up marrying the head cheerleader for the Baltimore Ravens, so his last 10 years were
they were fine.
Years. They were good years. Chris Boykin, Big Black.
Yeah.
Another who passed on from MTV. Adam West, the original Batman. One of our favorite interviews ever.
If you've ever heard anything with Adam West, just know what you can hear him on The Simpsons. You can hear an interview. Just if you ever met him, he is exactly like that all the time.
Dennis Hoff, who was the founder and curator and business owner and CEO of the Bunny Ranch in lovely Carson City, Nevada.
He almost got us our first firing.
We're not going to get into
job.
him too much because
but became friends with Ted, man.
Yeah.
Like legitimately. Two of them became
we'll get there. That's why we're just kind of scratching the surface on some of the people that we've hung out with. And some of the best Dennis Hoff story was him taking us to the Hustler Club one night with Ron Jeremy and Larry Flint. Larry Flint's in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Flint can't do anything, but Larry Flint is pretty good at telling people what else to do. So Larry Flint's just rolling like, "Get me a vodka tonic."
Didn't he make you get him a drink?
Oh yeah, it came like I got 5 or 6 for him. I'm like, God damn it, Larry! Like you're a hustler guy, but you surely give me late or something. He's like, I got no pull, I just own the strike. You know what I mean? Who else? Let's see here. Brody Stevens, a local comedian who took his own life. Great guy, funny guy. Ralphie May.
Yep.
Who, same deal. Last person who passed on, John Witherspoon, comedian who appeared in a ton.
It's an old black
stuff.
guy you'd recognize, Mike.
I know you're into blaxploitation and all that stuff, so it's right in your wheelhouse. It's like John Amos and Pam Grier and
You'd recognize them too, Mike. Just trust it.
Did you see?
that guy.
Did you see Blackula? Okay, well then you have no idea.
Really, Mike?
You didn't see Blackula?
You didn't see it.
Did you see Blankenstein?
No.
I'm stunned.
The creature from the Black Lagoon.
Heard of it?
That's a joke. And the last two are missing on this dead podcast. That would be Chester Bennington, who, out of all these people, the nicest human being. Not that all of these people weren't great people.
It's just different with him, man.
Yeah, Chester Bennington was just just man. I hate to say this, he's a sweetheart. He was just the sweetest, kindest man.
True, that's very true.
I mean, you don't throw that out there with guys, but he really was. He was just like his heart was bigger than the rest of his body. He's one of those guys. And the last guy that we interviewed, who is no longer with us, who's been here a few times, that'd be Chris Cornell.
I have
a
lot to say about that, and nothing to say about that. That one, more than anyone, that one, to this day, that one still bugs me. Just understand one thing, man. Like, you and I both, Miles, we were Soundgarden fans of all the quote-unquote Seattle bands in that moment. That was our band. Chris Cornell's vocals were what they were, love his writing, everything. So we had the opportunity to interview him before, and that was cool. That's cool, like, hey, this is the guy I want to interview. About 2 years later, Castle comes up to us. And understand the meaningfulness for us was they go, hey, Chris Cornell wants to know if he can come in and hang out with you guys. And we're like, sure, what is he promoting? Because one thing about Chris, as he was known, he was just kind of matter of fact, just wanted to do his thing, but he wasn't interested in like talking. Castle goes, man, he's not promoting anything. He actually likes you guys.
He just wants to come in.
He just wants to hang out and shoot the S with you guys. So we're like, and I'll put it this way. You find someone whose art you really, really admire. Chris Cornell is that guy for me, and I believe the same for you, Miles, right? So years pass. They don't need us for anything. 25, 30 years later, this artist that you respect deeply turns around and says, I deeply respect your art. I want to be where you guys are and do this thing with you.
And managers and people who heard that interview said, you know what, he was the most personal he had been. He sounded happy. He was in a good place. He was having fun. He was talking to us about a lot of good things. So we don't feel like we've been doing this for that long.
No.
But the truth of the matter is we have, and we're getting older. And, like anything else, like you wish these people would be around, and they're not.
Not all.
So Charlie Murphy, Ty Posabon, Myron Cope, Macho Man Randy Savage, Ronnie James Dio, Gary Coleman, Lemmy, David Modell, Chris Boykin, a.k.a. Big Black, Chris Cornell, Adam West, Chester Bennington, Dennis Hoff, Brody Stevens, Ralphie May, and our latest, the late, great John Witherspoon.
Well, it's goddamn depressing, Miles. Thank you. I'm glad I'm here.
There's episode 14.
It's terrible.
You've been listening to The Greatest Story Never Told with Miles and Thrill on radio.com.
Oh, man! A Double Flush production.